This episode is brought to you by HASA. Liquid is clearly better. Liquid chlorine is the highest purity, works immediately, has no added cyanuric acid or calcium, and it will leave your pool safe, clean, and clear. And by the bottom feeder professional grade battery powered vacuum system. It sucks to clean pools, so cleaning pools sucks less. Get $100 off with code DVB100.
This episode is brought to you by Skimmer, the #1 pool service software in North America. With Skimmer, you can streamline your schedule, grow your revenue, and keep your customers coming back with 5-star service. Whether you're a one-person operation or an established team, Skimmer is your partner in success. Visit getskimmer.com/poolguy to try Skimmer for free for 30 days.
The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show.
Hi, welcome to the Pool Guy Podcast Show. In this episode, I'm going to go over when to vacuum a pool, when to use the vacuum system, when to maybe use a portable cleanup pump, and when to use your leaf rake to clean the pool. I'll go over different scenarios so you can kind of get an idea of how extensive you need to be when you're out there cleaning the pools and what you should use. I know a lot of people have questions about it when they first start, and a lot of employees have questions about how much they should do when they get to a pool. Are you a pool service pro looking to take your business to the next level? Join the Pool Guy Coaching Program. Get expert advice, business tips, exclusive content, and get direct support. From me, I'm a 35-year veteran in the industry. Whether you're starting out or scaling up, I've got the tools to help you succeed. Learn more at swimmingpoollearning.com. There are a couple of ways of looking at this. One way to look at this, of course, is that vacuuming a pool is part of the full service of a pool. You can have tiered services where you don't necessarily even think about vacuuming a pool because you're just doing chemicals, brushing and skimming. You may have other tiers where you're just doing chemicals only, or you may have the full service tier where you're doing brushing, vacuuming, cleaning the tiles, all of the works, doing everything for the full service. And at what extent do you vacuum each pool? Well, it's debatable, and I mentioned that there's different ways of looking at it. I look at it in the terms of necessity. Other people look at it in terms of optics and what the customer is paying for, and I understand both sides of the argument. If you have employees, a lot of people like to have the employees put a vacuum in every pool. I think the reason for that is they want to make sure the employee is actually doing something there, not cutting corners. A lot of pool service companies will give their employees rip ties or bottom feeders, which makes this clause really easy to fulfill. Just drop the bottom feeder in or the rip tide and vacuum the pool, and that fulfills that part of the contract. It's really not that difficult to vacuum every pool on your route if you have the bottom feeder or another vacuum system like the rip tide or hammerhead. It's something that's pretty easy to implement, but is it always necessary? And I would say it's not really necessary to do that, and I'm not really big into optics with most of the customers out there. I think it's more about logic and are you wasting time out there. Now, it's okay if you want to keep the clause for the employees that they vacuum every pool. I think that does make some sense because then they're not cutting corners and the customer sees that the employee is actually doing something there every week. Not a bad idea, but if you're a single pooler, you really don't want to waste your time vacuuming every pool. So I have a one-page service agreement that I have the customers sign, and in that agreement, it does say in there, and I pulled it up here so I can actually see what I have written here, so I am certain I'm getting this correctly when I'm saying it here. I have service performed at each visit. So, number 1, check pool chemical levels, chlorine and pH. Addition of needed chemicals, adding chemicals. Number 2, clean skimmer and pump basket as needed. Vacuum pool and spa as needed. Clean tile. Brush pool and spa wall, skim both pool and spa. So all of this to say that I put as needed in my service agreement. And by the way, if you want a copy of this, you just email me at david@swimmingpoollearning.com and I'll shoot over a copy of it to you in the email. It may take me a day or two. I'm a little behind on email sometimes, but I'll get it over to you. I had one person email me and then they messaged me on the podcast site, then they emailed me on a different email. Just because I wasn't responding fast enough. And I am pretty busy and I really can't get it to you within an hour or two. And so don't send me multiple emails. He even emailed me again. I get it. I gave it to him. I wasn't like, hey, why are you emailing me so much? It's something that some people have a higher expectation of response time on emails, and I get it, but it may take me a while to get it over to you. David at swimmingpoollearning.com, and I'll send it over to you. But I think it's important if you're a single poler to really add that into your clause, because you don't want any kind of problems with customers pushing back saying, I saw you servicing the pool and I didn't see you drop a vacuum in there. Well, on the service agreement, it says as needed, and your pool did not need me to vacuum that week. Now, one of the things you may want to have on your pool route, which is smart to do, and I suggest having this, is having an automatic cleaner in every pool. It makes a lot of sense because you're there for 20 minutes and the rest of the week the wind blows, gardeners show up, things can happen, stuff can fall in the pool, and having a suction side cleaner or a pressure side cleaner is a great way to make sure that the pool stays swim ready every day. And I sell them to the customers all the time. I don't even take accounts without cleaners because to me, it's really a waste of my time to be vacuuming a pool and spending all my time doing that when I can be doing other things like balancing the water, brushing the pool, skimming it, cleaning the tiles. There really isn't a lot of need to be vacuuming the entire pool because there's no cleaner in there. And I've had a few customers push back. They don't want to have the hoses in the pool. The simple solution is selling them a robotic pool cleaner. They tend to like that because they put it in when they need it. And then, of course, they pull it out and the pool looks really nice with nothing in there. And then on my service days, I'll drop the robot cleaner in there after I clean the pool and make sure it runs for the cycle. And the customer already knows that on my service day, I'm going to run the robotic pool cleaner, and then they can take it out later that day and empty it out or use it again later in the week, whatever they want to do. So that's an option also for those customers that don't want the hoses in there. If they're on a budget and they don't really want to spend money on a cleaner, I have plenty of used cleaners that I can just throw in there. And do I charge the customer for it? Technically, I don't, because I usually use a navigator. I just throw it in there and I don't worry about it and just run. If there's parts that need to be changed, of course, I charge the customer for the parts in those cleaners. But generally, I'll eventually be able to sell them a better cleaner once they realize how well the pool looks with a cleaner in there. I also sell a lot of Zodiac Rangers to customers. They're pretty inexpensive. They work great in all pool types and they're affordable. By the way, you can't sell them at Creepy Crawly anymore because they're going to be discontinuing those, but they were not as priced as well as the Zodiac Ranger. You can sell them at Zodiac G3 as well if you wanted to go a little higher, but the Ranger is perfectly fine. But my go-to cleaners, of course, are the Hayward Pool Cleaner or the Polaris Atlas Max Cleaners. They're the best cleaners, I think, on the market. And I can sell those any day of the week to any customer, and they're really happy with those particular suction side cleaners. But having a cleaner in the pool does save you a lot of time. And then you're only spot vacuuming. So you can just take your vacuum head back there and you can connect it to the pole and spot vacuum the pool, attach the cleaner hoses, and then put your manual vacuum head on there. And by the way, the Zodiac does have a vac head hose adapter now. I made a couple of videos like how do you vacuum with these locking hoses, and they were pretty popular on YouTube. Maybe not watched as much anymore because now Zodiac came out with an adapter for your manual vacuum head. It's called the Zodiac Cleaner Manual Vac Head Hose Adapter. Very clever name. It's the R069700, R069700, and that's for the Zodiac locking hoses, which by the way I'm not a fan of. I don't like them. They're super expensive to replace. They do last a very long time, I'll give you that, but if you over twist them, you can snap them really easily. They don't suck air. I give Zodiac credit for that, but they're just not convenient for the pool pros. We like universal hoses. We like to swap them out. They do have a version of the Polaris Atlas that doesn't have the locking hoses. You can get that at Pool Corp. They do sell that there, but that's for the adapter for the locking hoses. I know I'm going on a rabbit trail here, but it's basically something that you're going to need to have if you have suction side cleaners on your pool route and you want to vacuum from the side port. I don't really adjust the suction when I'm doing the spot vacuuming because I just use the side port. Usually if there's a side port cleaner connected there, I'll attach my vacuum head and I won't turn the suction up. Usually I'll just go slower and spot vacuum with the cleaner. Now if it's attached at the skimmer, I'll still do the same thing. I'm not going to take out the regulator valve. I'll just leave everything the way it is, and then I'll attach my manual vacuum head. Now if it is on a variable speed pump, I will turn it up to like 3100 or the full speed 3450. You can usually push a button and put it in full speed. If you have a quick clean button on there, it'll actually, most pumps are programmed for the high speed, and then I'll vacuum the pool. You can't vacuum too well from the side port or from the skimmer if you're only getting like 2400 RPMs or 2600 RPMs. So definitely I turn the speed up when I'm spot vacuuming, and I can spot vacuum the entire pool and spa with the cleaner hoses. Usually they'll stretch and reach into the spa. Sometimes they don't. And that's where the WaterTech Pool Blaster cleaners come in handy. They have a ton of them, a ton of different ones you can buy. I like the standard Pool Blaster Max or the Volt, and these are great for vacuuming spas. Now, one thing I will tell you, if you are going to vacuum as needed, one area of a pool and spa that needs vacuuming every week usually is the spa itself. So you want to have one of these devices, or if you have the bottom feeder, you can just throw it into the spa and vacuum it, and that's perfectly fine. Spot vacuum with the bottom feeder is really easy as well. There's really no need to actually take a manual vacuum head back there and connect it to the automatic cleaner, because the bottom feeder is so convenient. Just throw it in the pool, and you can go anywhere with it. A lot of pool guys like the Coquito leaf vacuums. They're pretty good. They just aren't really as durable as something like a professional vacuum system. So don't expect to get more than a few months out of the Coquito vacuums, but they are effective in spot vacuuming as well. And instead of the Coquito, you can also get the BWT version of it. Same thing, same company. BWT bought Coquito a while ago, and so they have two versions of it. Your supplier may carry the BWT leaf vacuum, and on Amazon you can get the Coquito ones every day of the week. They're pretty good again for spot vacuuming, but I do prefer the professional vacuum systems over those because of the longevity. And then if you wanted to just use that as your primary vacuum, that's perfectly fine. The bottom feeder works great to spot vacuum a pool and as your primary vacuum. Now, if you do need to manually vacuum a pool because there's no automatic cleaner in there, it's a real pain. And a lot of pool guys actually charge a little more for the accounts where they have to manually vacuum the entire pool. If there's no cleaner in there, you got to bring the pool hose, your vacuum head, and then vacuum that pool out. A good middle ground alternative, especially if you have employees and you don't want them messing with manual vacuuming the pools. And if you're not in an area where the vacuum system comes in handy, a lot of times the Vac Daddy is a good middle ground cleaner because it works a lot like a manual vacuum. You plug it in, and the bags are really good at catching dirt and debris. And so your employees can use that as their manual vacuum. It's pretty convenient. You don't have to bring the hoses back there. Just bring the Vac Daddy back and vacuum it. There's a lot of options out there for manual vacuuming a pool. You can also use the WaterTech larger battery cleaners like the Precision 2.0 or the Precision version 10, I should say. That's the one with the sealed battery. And they also have the 1000 and 2000 versions of that cleaner as well. The Pool Blaster 1000, 2000, they're really good as well. And they don't have any cords. You can just use those to vacuum a pool. You can successfully spot vacuum all the pools in your route within 1 day using the Precision version 10. It has really good suction, about 30 to 40 gallons per minute. And just use that to vacuum the pools out. You're no longer tied to just the manual vacuum hose and head anymore. You have all these options out there. The Vac Daddy, the bottom feeder, the BWT and Coquito leaf vacs, the WaterTech vacuums. All of these, I would, maybe pick a few of these. I wouldn't get all of them, I would say, but pick a few of these, and you can use these as like an alternative to manual vacuuming every pool, because honestly, to put the pool hose and the vacuum head takes a lot of time. Sometimes the pump's not working that great. You lose suction. You don't have a lot of flow going to the system. And it's better to use one of these alternatives. Now, I mentioned the pump carts. For those areas where you get a lot of dirt, like the high desert here in California or the low desert, and also parts of Arizona and Nevada, getting a Portavac from Advantage Manufacturing is not a bad idea. You have everything on there, the cartridge filter, the pump, everything, and you just have to use your vacuum hose and clean the pools as if you were manually vacuuming. But everything goes into the Portavac, so you're not actually vacuuming all that dirt into the customer's filtration system. There is definitely a market for that, and for cleanups and things like that, the Portavac is great. If you call Advantage Manufacturing and talk to Eben, they'll give you a discount. Just mention my name, mention the podcast, and they'll take some money off that for you. But there is definitely a market for the Portavac and a need for it. I wouldn't necessarily discount it outright, but there are markets where this comes in handy, and they do sell really well. People like having the portable filtration system. It's great for, again, cleanups and for using it to vacuum out pools with heavy dirt in there, because the vacuum systems, although they're convenient, like the bottom feeder Riptide, the smallest that you can probably vacuum down to logically is 60 microns, because if you use anything finer, it's just not going to be effective. You're going to be emptying the bag. It's going to slow you down more than if you were just to manually vacuum the pool. And so how do you make the judgment? Well, if there's a lot of leaf debris in the pool and a lot of dirt, I'll still use a vacuum system, because I know that if I'm going to manually vacuum it, even if I'm using the cleaner hoses with a canister, or if I'm using a manual vacuum, if there's a lot of debris, enough to fill up your whole leaf rake on the bottom of the pool, the manual vacuum head is going to get really hung up on the dirt. It's going to get clogged up. You're going to be pulling the manual vacuum head to the side of the pool and grabbing out the debris every few minutes, and it's just a pain. You can try to vacuum around the large debris and get all the dirt out, but then you're leaving a bunch of debris on the bottom of the pool, and it doesn't look good, and you might as well have just used a leaf rake and skimmed everything out at that point. So the vacuum system definitely comes in handy when, again, you have maybe 1 or 2 leaf rakes full of debris from the bottom. Just use the vacuum system to get all the leaf debris out. It's going to stir up a lot of the dirt, but then if you have a suction side cleaner, of course, unclog it, because it's probably clogged up with debris, and then after you use the vacuum system, let the suction side cleaner get all the dirt out of the pool. And that's kind of the method that I use. If there's a limited amount of debris, I'll use something else, but if there's a lot of debris, I'll definitely use the vacuum system and not worry about the dirt that goes through the bag, because the suction side cleaner will pick it up after the fact. And you have to kind of use your judgment. Sometimes you just need to use your leaf rake and skim out some leaves here and there. There's not even a need to put the vacuum head on the automatic cleaner or to manually vacuum the pool. And you can successfully skim the bottom of a pool in like 4 or 5 minutes if there's just not a lot of dirt, but there's leaf debris on the bottom. And again, it's just a matter of experience and knowing when to vacuum. I would say that if you're manually vacuuming a lot of pools and there's a lot of large debris, it's really not going to be effective and efficient. You might as well just use your leaf rake at that point, or invest in a vacuum system, or one of these smaller battery powered vacuums like the Coquito ones or the BWT ones. And WaterTech does also have a battery operated leaf vac that works really well as well. But you're not really limited with the vacuum systems and with the Vac Daddy and with the battery operated cleaners. You have a lot of options out there, and I think vacuuming a pool is something that, of course, should be done to make sure the pool is clean. And in my opinion, it should be done as needed. But if you have employees, again, I don't argue with the fact that you would want them to vacuum every pool. It's just a matter of which tool you want them to use to vacuum every pool. The Vac Daddy, a battery powered vacuum, or a vacuum system, or the old school manual vacuum with the vacuum head, whichever you want to choose. But there are options out there, and it's something that you're going to learn as you do this business. There are a lot of great options and a lot of ways to speed up your day out there, even when you have to vacuum a pool using one of these tools. And if you're looking for more podcasts, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, where one's posted Monday through Friday. You can also find them on my website, swimmingpoollearning.com. On the banner, click on the podcast icon. There'll be a drop-down menu, and then you can, of course, get the plenty of podcasts to listen to there. And if you're interested in the coaching program, you can learn more at poolguycoaching.com. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Have a great rest of your week, and God bless. This episode is brought to you by HASA, providing products that deliver clean, healthy water for every aspect of everyday life. The bottom feeder battery-powered vacuum system, portable, powerful, and only weighs 12 pounds. And Skimmer. Get Skimmer, America's #1 pool service software. Podcast listeners can try Skimmer for free at getskimmer.com/poolguy.